Welcome back, Buccaneers fans, to another episode of Hear the Cannons, presented by BucsGameday, Sports Illustrated's one and only website strictly dedicated to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My name is Caleb. You can follow me on X at CHS I am a writer and reporter here at BucsGameday. Along with me, as always, is our lead editor, River Wells at River H Wells on X, and then also our fellow writer and reporter as well, JC Allen at JC Allen NFL as well. He also is the main host of the Sick podcast. If you want to check out some of his stuff as well. We got a full draft to cover. We went over the instant reaction live on the Emeka Egbuka trade in the first round. Awesome audience that we had going for that. So hopefully some more of you guys are able to tune in today, midday. We're kind of changing it up, see how things are going to work out with that. But without further ado, guys, I just want to get, your synopsis on, just how the Buccaneers did as a draft as a whole. And then we'll kind of go player by player, pick by pick before we get into some of the undrafted guys later. But just kind of your synopsis, and I'll start with you, River.
Yeah, I'm perhaps a little bit lower than some people are in the Bucs draft, but I think the Bucs still got a lot of pretty good players. Egbuka is obviously a really high floor wide receiver, adds another dimension to the Bucs offense, so that's a good thing. And it also allows them to have that Godwin type player, even if someone gets hurt or is unable to play. So that's very valuable for this scheme in Bucs offense. Curious to see how they handle him and Jalen McMillan both being in the offense and getting both of them reps, because you kind of feel like Jalen McMillan deserved and earned a bigger role in the offense basically after what he did at the end of last year, and then now you have Egbuka in, so that should be fun. Morrison can be a pretty good corner, has some stuff I think to learn and iron out at the next level, and has some injury concerns. So I'm curious to see how they end up developing him, because I wasn't as high as him as a prospect as some others. But Jacob Parrish could be a starting nickel corner right in there. Taki Smith moves to safety, really fast, quick guy, sticking in coverage. So that could be a pretty big boon for the Bucs. And then a lot of defensive guys like Walker, and then Elijah Roberts on the defensive line, beefing that up. A lot of good needs that they address, I think, and guys like Tez Johnson could be an outside shot to make the roster, maybe as a return guy. So overall, I think it was pretty decent. They got some really good players they needed, and I think they did focus on defense like they needed to do. So even without that first-round pick, they got some new guys in there to kind of revamp the defense with those free agency acquisitions. So I think they should be improved as a team going into next year.
Yeah, I love the draft. I love it. I love every pick. I love where they got them. I thought it was excellent value. You talked to a bunch of guys around the league, some of these experts and analysts. They had Egbuka again, and we talked about this, and I'm sure you guys talked about this, but this draft wasn't chock loaded with talent. Like there was maybe 12 to 15 tops blue chip talent in this draft that were considered true first rounders, and Egbuka was a lot of it. A lot of that to a lot of people, and I think where they got him 19, pretty good value. Some people, the Bucs had them in their top 10, so for them it was excellent value. Jason Light said he was a top 10 player for them, so excellent value for them there. Benjamin Morrison would have been a first round pick, should have been a first round pick if the news of why he had that hip surgery came out earlier. I think it would have quelled a lot of people, but pretty much he had bilateral hip issues. You got one of them taken care of in high school. So therefore not to, you get both hip surgeries. You could lose some scholarship offers. You get one done in high school, and then you get the other one done in college. You get both of them done in college, you're probably an undrafted guy, but it looked like it was more to clean up a process. Obviously he had an injury with the shoulder a couple of years ago as well. So yeah, like River said, there have been 3 surgeries in the last 4 years. And there are some concerns, but if he's healthy, he's one of the better cornerbacks in this draft, and a first round pick, surefire lock. In my opinion, there are some things that he needs to clean his game up with. And me and River were talking about that before, and we'll get into that when we go player by player, but really like the position, really like the pick. Then they came back around with Jacob Parrish in the 3rd round. Love that selection. He's super fast, 4.37 40. And he's, as River said, sticky in coverage. Is outside. The Bucs think he can play outside. And in a pinch, they'll have that, unlike when they did last year when Christian Izien was playing outside cornerback. But he's going to compete with Izien. And Izien was penciled in as that starter with Tyke moving up. And now he's got a 3rd round pick. And while Izien has shown he can play at a high level in the league as an undrafted free agent, he still drafted a 3rd round pick. And same thing kind of goes for Egbuka, right? McMillan, 3rd round pick, 1st round pick. McMillan has the trust and the respect of Baker Mayfield and obviously the production last year towards the end of the year to build upon. But Egbuka is a 1st round talent for a reason. So that's going to be those 3 competitions. If Morrison's ready to go and Dean is there, those are going to be the fun ones to watch. David Walker is a guy I love. I absolutely loved him. I identified him right away. Had him in one of my mock drafts. Had him as a best fit for where the Bucs got him in the 4th round. He's not going to ever develop into like a 3-down player, I don't think, just because size limitations. He's only 6 foot, and his wings and his arm length isn't that great to be able to stack and shed and off of, especially in the running game off offensive tackles. But man, as a designated pass rusher to come in and give you some different looks, I love it. Elijah Roberts is the one I kicked myself over because he played edge in college. Still moved around the line, but was primarily an edge. And when you look at him in his edge, he doesn't have the bend. He doesn't have the get off the line to really kind of be impact edge. But if you look at him in this Logan Hall, Will Golston, movable 3-tech, 4-eye, 5-tech guy, starts to really impress you. And you can't, 131 pressures the last 2 seasons is something you can't take away from him. And I like Tez Johnson a lot. His personality is out there. It
certainly is. Yeah.
So great. Then you combine him with Bucky. You got 2 small guys who just make people miss. That's what they do. Now he's really small, 154, but I'm sure he'll work to get himself up probably around to like 167. I think he could probably get up to without losing too much of that agility that he has, because it's not really speed, it's just suddenness, foot quickness, and punt returner. He already said that's his job. That's the first thing he said. Forget who asked him. Someone asked him about special teams. Like, oh yeah, that punt job's mine. Tell whoever's there I'm sorry. So he'll have a battle and now I'm writing a piece right now for BucsGameday, which we are killing it with content. If you're not watching it, over there reading it, put in the rotation. What are you doing? You probably are because you're watching this podcast, but we are crushing it right now. So check that out. It's going to have all this. Who was affected most by the draft? Because a lot of guys were. We mentioned a few of them.
Yeah, and it's interesting with the Bucs going wide receiver first overall. Not something that any of us probably had on our radar, but obviously they really liked it. So, but then doubling up at cornerback, you're getting 2 kind of opposite guys, but both play maybe in similar roles, if you could say that. Benjamin, more of that long, lengthy guy that can attack the ball. Shadows wide receivers pretty well. I know there's the concerns with the injury, but it's more of something that's just there that he has to deal with. That's something that comes with his life, and that's not something that's been caused by play on the field, but obviously can't affect him moving on. And then with Parrish, little bit undersized, probably going to see a little bit more of him at the nickel, despite him being a really good outside coverage guy as well. But I saw the other day the Buccaneers have already translated Tyke to safety on their official webpage. So it does seem like they're kind of moving in that direction, which is also why we didn't see them take a safety in the draft here as well. What I'm really interested in to see is the David Walker thing. Obviously, we know the level of talent he was playing at the FCS level, absolutely dominating with that bull rush, just consistently getting into the backfield, knocking balls out of quarterbacks' hands, depleting running backs like 5 yards deep in the backfield. And then the question was, is he going to be able to live up to the talent level of, the NFL professional guys? And then he went to the Senior Bowl and, put on a show there against some of the other top-notch talents that we were able to see. I think he went up against Cornerly once, who the Commanders drafted, and absolutely dogged him on one of the reps and just made him look foolish. So I'm interested to see, because as you mentioned, JC, his arm length is kind of a question mark there, but he does have the tools. I don't necessarily agree with you on the fact that he can't eventually become an every down three down starter. I think he could eventually, but I think it'll take him some time there. His production level was absurd over the course of his time at, where was he at? Southern Arkansas and Central Arkansas. So
I think what's interesting. Sorry, I was gonna say what's interesting is that we've seen Jason Light go for traits-based picks kind of in the past, like guys like JTS, guys like Diaby, which one might end up working out pretty well, one maybe not. But I think we've seen Jason Light make those type of picks and in the past. And with this draft, it's all production, right? I mean, David Walker, 80.5 tackles for loss in 4 years, which is quite frankly comical. You got guys like Elijah Roberts, right? Who, I mean, had the most QB pressures in all of college football the past 2 seasons, 131. Benjamin Morrison, 9 picks, 31 games. So I think really this draft was interesting. It was really about production, and there were some concerns, like we mentioned, about the arm length and stuff. So it's less kind of based on those traits. And now this draft is all about what have you done in college and how can that translate to the next level. So I think it was a little bit of a different draft strategy for Jason Light this time around, which I find pretty interesting. And I'm curious to see how it works out, given that.
Yeah, especially because you said it, the traits, the production they're looking for. But the one thing that didn't differ was from character. And you talk to all these guys, and the character is strong. I've talked to Brian Hartline, Abuka's position coach, David Walker's position coach, and then Jacob Parrish. And that's one thing that they all praised is their character. And these are just the guys who love football and who are great people. David Walker does humanitarian trips with his church. Like, he's done 3 of them. He's gone to Asia, South
Africa. Elijah Roberts also talked to us about, his volunteer work with victims of domestic abuse in Miami. He talked extensively about that on his Zoom. So definitely.
Absolutely, high character guys.
Yeah, and I mean, not to say that they're not picking off traits at all, by the way. I mean, Emeka Egbuka is higher than, 9 RAS guy. Jacob Parrish is probably going to play in the nickel because he's too short. That's probably going to prevent him from playing outside. But if he was taller, the rest of his, his speed, his agility, his drills at combine. Yeah, exactly. He's a freak, right? So
Tez didn't kill his 40 time, but his agility testing was outlandish, and his explosion, his vertical, his broad, and his 3-cone short shuttle was crazy.
Exactly, and that's another guy who, kind of like Bucky, who had not as good of a combine, but when you look at the tape and you can see how they make guys miss, that's something that you're gambling on that they can do at the next level. And when it came to Bucky Irving, they most certainly did. So maybe the same might be for Tez Johnson. Yeah. So
absolutely. And we'll continue things here. If you guys are watching over on X, head over to YouTube, hit subscribe, click the like button as well. That's how you get your comments, your questions in here as well. Shout out our guy that's in here almost every single time we're going live, Christopher Cole. Afternoon to you as well, buddy. So if you're watching on X, watching on Facebook, head over to YouTube. That's how you get up here. That's how you get to interact with us. And we really appreciate the subscriptions as well. Yeah. You're helping us pay the bills every once in a while. So we do appreciate it. But Elijah Roberts, very intriguing one because everybody has him as edge. I know you had mentioned that, JC. That's when it came across. And except for from the Buccaneers side, they have him listed as a defensive lineman. Yeah. So they are probably going to utilize him, both inside and outside, which I think is probably going to play a little bit more towards his strengths rather than just, putting him at edge, despite him having all those pressures over the final 2 seasons when he was with SMU. And we got to think about that too. That's when SMU they were in the AAC in his first year there. So a little bit lesser competition, but he was able to back it up again going into the ACC once they made that switch this past season. Didn't get a whole lot of run during his time in Miami. He had about 12 plus 9, so 21 total tackles and a forced fumble and 1 tackle.
A little bit log jammed over there.
Obviously,
Gables. Yeah,
you got the Jalen Phillips and all those guys down there in the South. But he really found his home at SMU. Big guy, just 285. I mean, he's huge, so that'll fit well. I wonder what the Buccaneers are going to want him. Are they going to want him to stay in that range? Play at that weight level, maybe gain some more weight, or possibly have him shrink down a little bit. And I think that would be an interesting thing. And then I love the Tez Johnson pick. That is probably one of my favorite picks. Dude had over 3,300 something receiving yards over the course of his career. Going from Troy, then going to the Pac-12, where he joined obviously Oregon with his brother by I guess they adopted him or something similar of that nature with Bo Nix there. So you've seen what Bo Nix has done. You see the character that Bo Nix has, his family as well, and it's kind of, Tez has been put in a better position and been able to live a better life, which is great to see. And then obviously he himself said that Bucky Irving is his best friend. And as JC or River, one of you guys mentioned, that they're very, they're not the biggest guys. Obviously, they're not the fastest guys, but it's the way they move, the way that they play the game, how much they love and how much passion they have for the game that really, pushes them on, further pass, and why it makes it such a great value pick in my mind that Tez was sitting there for the Bucs at the 7th.
Yeah, and going on both of those things, I think Elijah Roberts is going to have a lot of utility, kind of playing that Logan Hall and William Golson type role. Not a huge nose tackle kind of guy, obviously, but he might serve as some insurance for. I think William Golson is probably going to end up retiring at the end of before the season, and if that's the case, then that's a whole week to fill that you could fill with Roberts there, and then also with Logan Hall. Kind of played a little bit better last year, but getting to the end of his deal, if Roberts can show out, he can fill in that similar role and kind of replace him there in the intermediate. So I think that's kind of how they'll end up using him, maybe a little bit inside, but defensive lineman, but definitely kind of got a little bit of a hybrid variability there. But Tez Johnson, yeah, like you said, it's interesting because there's a lot of scouting philosophy that you look at what these guys do on the field. Right. And then sometimes it's like, oh, traits, RAS score. And I think those are both good ways to evaluate a player. But Tez Johnson, like we mentioned, he made people miss. Right. And he got it done on the field. He got separation. Did not run a fast 40, but like JC mentioned, the agility was fantastic. So they're going to want to see him utilize that in the kick return game and also potentially serve as another weapon if he can kind of replicate those things from college to the NFL. Now, Bucky Irving was able to do that very well. Not everyone's going to be able to. So, but if Tez Johnson can, that could be a pretty big boon for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and he put guys in a blender at the Senior Bowl. Some of the top competition in the country. They in one-on-ones, they just couldn't. He got people falling on the ground, breaking ankles.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. Obviously, the size concerns. You're not going to put him out there in the slot and say, "All right, go up against this, run a,
no block, no rock, baby." Yeah,
right. Go block or run these type of routes. But what you do is you get him manufactured touches, right? You get him touches where he can get put in space and get the ball in space, and then use his God-given ability to make people miss afterwards. And I think that's how you utilize him if he makes this roster and you're going to put him out there. Now, again, 7th round pick, not guaranteed anything. I had him as a 4th round pick. I know Trevor Sikkema had him as a 4th round pick. A lot of people had him going in the 4th round. So to get him, over 100 picks, almost 100 picks later, I think is tremendous value. And again, it just kind of speaks to the size, and it wasn't going to be a fit for everyone. And, there were a lot more of those shifty slot receivers in this year's draft. And I think Tez, obviously, with his ability to contribute right away as a punt returner, he averaged, I think, 8.9 yards per punt, but had an 85-yard touchdown. So, again, I really liked the player. I liked him. He was one of my best fits. The Bucs grabbed him in the 7th round. With Elijah Roberts, it's going to be interesting because, again, played more edge, still kicked inside, did a little bit of things down at SMU when he was there for those 2 years. But with the Bucs, again, that he's got the size. He bulked up to 292 already. I'm sure the Bucs will probably want to get him up to closer to 300 in that role. He's a little bit smaller than a guy like Logan Hall at 6'3". But, man, he's lengthy. He's versatile. And his bull rush is just devastating. And the thing about Roberts is he doesn't have high end speed, and he doesn't have a really good first step. It's just average, but he's so methodical with his technique that's how he wins. He's got a nasty counter, and he just knows he's a football guy. He watches a ton of tape. He knows what teams are trying to do. He identifies the blocking schemes to try to change up his attack. There are some things, again, he's not fast, not super twitchy. He's not going to change direction in pursuit, really. He's going to pursue, but he's not going to be able to quickly, stop on a dime and change direction to pursue. And for whatever reason, he was just trying to make big plays in the backfield last year, and he missed a bunch of tackles. So he's got to clean that up, but I think he will. But, this guy is always running. Like, his motor is super hot. He's 131 total pressures. He ends up having 7.5 sacks this year, 10 sacks last year. I think he's going to be immediate part of the rotation. With his versatility to kind of line up and create pressure from any spot in the line. So you get him in that Logan Hall, you get him in that Will Golston role, but you can also move him over into 3-tech, when you need to give Kalijah a breather, or if Kalijah not there. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and one more quick thing on Tez. I think the weight is a problem and it stacks the deck against him, for sure. But we've seen instances of people being around that playing weight and height and Tank Dell and Tutu Atwell are the two that, come to mind, but those guys are very small, but they end up contributing in a big way to both their respective teams. Right. So if Tez can gain maybe, 10 more pounds or so, he could find himself in that similar sort of sphere and role as a kick returner, maybe even as a weapon on the offense. So, and
he mentioned Tank Dell as someone who he watches too.
Yeah.
When
exactly.
I talked to him.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yeah,
and Tutu Atwell, McVay's offense. This is a kind of like a McVay type offense. So
it's a little bit like
blueprint is already there on how to use him in different ways. So
yeah.
Absolutely. And we've got a great, question in here from Christopher Cole on YouTube. But right before we get into the undrafted free agents that the Buccaneers have signed up to this point, just a quick grade from each of you guys. I know a lot of people like it. Some people, on social media haven't as much. But personally, for me, I give it a solid A. I wouldn't go A+ just because I think there could have been, one or two other players that, the Buccaneers could have targeted that might have fit what I wanted them to do a little bit more. But overall, I think it's a pretty good draft.
Yeah, I think I'll go B. I like a lot of what they did, for sure. I really like guys like Jacob Parrish. I think Elijah Robertson fit in really well. I think David Walker could end up being a really strong rotational guy. I love Emeka Egbuka, the player. Curious to see, how he's going to get used in conjunction with the very crowded wide receiver room they have next year. And that's how I would imagine it too, for sure, JC. But then, wide receiver 3, but then Jalen McMillan. We'll see what happens with that. And then Benjamin Morrison, like I said, I'm a little bit lower on, but overall, I thought they addressed their needs. They got depth. They needed to get depth. They strengthened up rooms that were pretty weak on the back end. And that was what the Bucs needed to do in this draft. And I think they accomplished that goal. So I think they still did a pretty good job. And we'll see how it translates next year.
I'm still going back and forth. I will have my final draft, my grade on the drafts up at BucsGameday either today or tomorrow at some point. I'm waffling between a B+ and an A-. I think the value they got for several players at several spots, I had a 4th round kind of grade on David Walker, but if you look at a couple respected, Mike Renner was one of them, and the franchise guy, I forget his name off the top of my head right now. They both had him in the top 50 of their rankings, and I know other people after watching them tape had him within the top 100. So the value there is tremendous. I think the value for Tez is tremendous. I think the value for Egbuka is right on par, where it was maybe a little bit. If for the Bucs it was there. But right on par where he should have went within that, I think that 15 to 25 range for him. And that's not to say he's a bad receiver, should have went early. That's just to say that there was a lot of teams with defensive needs after a really heavily offensive draft last year. A lot of defensive players went off the board because teams needed those because they went offense last year. I love the Tez Johnson pick as value. Elijah Roberts, I wish I looked at more, but I know a lot of people had him ranked with the back of the 3rd round grade to get him in the 5th or an early 4th to get him in the 5th. I thought the value was great. Morrison's a 1st round pick, if he's not injured, or I don't even want to call it injured if he doesn't get surgery, because he didn't get an injury to have that hip surgery. It was a decision he made. Like, hey, I should probably make this decision now. And he made that decision. So whatever, call it kind of giving up on his team, whatever, quitting. I don't think it's any of that. I think what's best for me is to get the surgery now. So I love the value. I love the players. I love the fit. I love the competition that it brings, not just to the top of the guys, with McMillan and with Jamel Dean and with Christian Izzian, but also in the back of the roster competition it creates, that wide receiver room is going to be so fun to watch. And
get ready for training camp.
all right, I can't wait. And I have a feel Light's going to get some. He'll get a 6th or a 7th for one of these guys, whether that's Rakim Jarrett or Trey Palmer or something. I feel like he'll be able to get a pick, even a future conditional 2020. If he's on the roster for X. That's how deep I think this wide receiver room is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going back between a B+ and an A-. I'm going to try to solidify that here, obviously today. But I love the draft. I really love the draft. I'm leaning A-. I really love the draft.
Yeah, and I think, the ability to have like instant impact is something that I really liked about it too, based on that production. Guys that have been in college for multiple years that can immediately come in and maximize the, Baker Mayfield era, if you will, in Tampa Bay. So with that being said, let's move on to the undrafted free agents. I'm going to go over just a list of these guys that we have. And then we'll get into a question here from one of our YouTube viewers, and then let you guys speak on any of the other guys that, you find intriguing. So tight end Anthony Lamphere out of Memphis, offensive lineman Jake Majors out of Texas. We have linebacker John Bullock out of Nebraska, so they were top Bulls, understands that. Defensive tackle, the biggest guy in NFL history to make a roster as of now, and Desmond Watson out of Florida.
Big
Des, yes, sir. Sanders coming in as well, and Shiloh, who played safety there at Colorado.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, a lot of Shiloh content going out right now. Somebody that I'm very intrigued in is Will Shepard, the wide receiver out of Colorado, that's been brought on as well. Quarterback Connor Bazelak out of Bowling Green, also a very intriguing option there. Center Ben Scott out of Nebraska. Offensive lineman Ben Chukwuma out of Georgia State. Quarterback Garrett Green from West Virginia.
There's actually a wide receiver convert.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, he's going the Julian Edelman route.
He does have it down there, wide receiver. I see it now.
Yeah, he's had 2,000 yards rushing the last 2 seasons.
Holy cow!
He's actually pretty fun to watch. If you can find his highlights, he's pretty fun to watch. Definitely, but he won't be.
Kicker Ryan Coe, running back Josh Williams out of LSU, and that completes the list. I believe so. So with that being said, guys, this is a question here from Christopher Cole. Who is your sleeper undrafted free agent that is going to make the team this year?
Go for it, JC. Hopefully you don't take mine.
I think there's a good chance that 2 or 3 of these guys can make the team this year. I'm going to start with a guy who I had as a best fit in the 7th round.
Leave a sleeper for me.
Gotcha. I'll talk about the other guys after. JJ Roberts, the safety out of Marshall.
And there we go. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
You knew I was going to go there.
yeah.
My best fit, man.
Of course. Go for it.
I had him as a potential 7th round pick for the Bucs if they would have grabbed him. But I really like JJ Roberts. He comes down flying at like a bat out of hell, like a missile. Really good on special teams as well. He's also played corner too. So he provides that versatility. He's played in man zone. He's played man systems. He's played in zone systems. Not a lot of ball production. I think he's only has like 4 interceptions through his career. But he's a guy who triggers quick in the run game and flies down and hits people with authority. I wrote he's violent coming downhill and run support. But he's got the range, explosion, and burst to make plays on the ball. Both those, I really like him a lot. And I think he's got a chance to maybe overtake Kayvon Merriweather for that job, or depending on how that corner room shakes out, because they'll probably keep 6 corners, 4 safeties, and like nickel will get thrown in with corner or whatnot. But I think he's got a good chance of making the team. Sorry, Rev.
No, all good. I'll go with who I think is a sleeper. And it's funny that we call him a sleeper because of how often people talk about him. But let's talk about Shiloh Sanders, because as a safety, I think it's a little rough. I think instincts are not great. I think the angles are a little poor. And I think he's got a lot of refinement when it comes to playing defensive back. But if he's willing to play special teams and be a special teams contributor, He's got some little bit of inconsistent tackling form, but when he does really wrap up, he's a good tackler. He really can bring guys down. I think he's got above average closing speed. And because of that, I think there could be some value as a special teamer in that instance. And I think that's the only way he makes the team, because I don't know if he's going to be able to play safety at a clip that the Bucs are going to want, even with a weak safety room as it is. But if we're talking about sleepers and guys who might be able to make it to the team who you think might not make it, I think Charlotte might be a good pick, because if you need some special teams guys, he's willing to get his nose in the dirt and do that. And again, we'll have to see how that goes, given the Sanders family and how they've acted in the past. But I feel like that could be a sleeper pick to kind of maybe slide in there and be able to contribute there. So,
you mean, I just want to clarify, because obviously I don't think JJ Roberts is a sleeper, but so I messed up there. But I was going to make the team 53 or make the team practice squad, because there's a different thing here. I think it's going to be really hard for any of these guys to crack the 53.
If it was total, I'd probably take the Bowling Green quarterback. I think he would probably be a good guy to add, have him as a practice squad guy as well. But I think
that would be your fourth quarterback, though, wouldn't it?
Right, exactly, which would take up that spot. But I think I would say maybe Jake Majors, the offensive lineman from Texas. You could use a little bit of depth to go there on the offensive line. So I think he's a little bit versatile, but he's probably more of a guard than he is a tackle. But you can never have a shortage of depth there at that position. And
Majors is a center.
Oh, there we go. I mean, but he's
a strictly center. He's nothing but a center.
Well, that's fine. I don't know a whole lot about him.
I don't know a whole lot about him either, but I haven't looked at him. I just know he's only played center. That's why when I was looking at, that's why I got Jonah Monheim as my 7th round pick over him, because he had some flexibility to play guard. But I really like where you're going with Jake Majors. The Bucs don't have a true center on this team, and they're going to cross train him at guard as well. But they don't have a true center. They have Ben Bredesen, who can slide over and play center. But now you're creating a hole at guard. So what do you do there? You put Sulu Peta in there, Elijah Klein. Elijah Klein's been cross training at center as well in both guard spots. So they have him there. But as far as someone who's a true center, and I forget who was talking, John Leddy and Ollie Connolly, they do their draft research, and Ollie Connolly said he's the smartest center in the draft, and it wasn't for knee issues or something like that, injuries, lower body injuries, he would have went probably 4th, 5th round. So this is great value as an undrafted free agent, and a guy who can,
he's one of those guys that's got the double knee braces going on there, along with the offensive line. So I can see where that's coming from. We're gonna bring this up because I think it is one of the more intriguing options here for the Buccaneers, and this is one of Rivers' guys, Desmond Watson, the 400-pound defensive lineman out of University of Florida.
He's more than 400 pounds, actually.
And astonishingly, push him on the field. I can see why everybody loves that, because he's got short arms and he's a big dude, and that's the one area. You go back and listen to what Jason Kelsey struggled with whenever he was playing center. He's struggling with guys with shorter arms, because they were kind of quicker to be able to get down low, and not, their arms aren't getting up as quickly, and being able to dig down, get below where he is, preventing Jalen Hurts from getting into the end zone. So intriguing guy. I'm not sure how it's really going to fit. Apparently he's already lost a lot of weight, but I'll let you guys.
He's got to lose more. He's got to lose quite a bit more. Frankly, I was always astonished at how you could be in a D1 football program and play football all year in training camp and conditioning, and then in games, and gain weight every year at the rate that he has. It's honestly quite astonishing. It depends on how you see the value of a pure space eater in today's NFL. Vita Vea is a space eater, but he also offers a lot more than that in his athleticism and his ability to break through, and his ability and usefulness on all downs. Watson might just be a guy who's pretty big, and I don't know if the Bucs really need someone like that in conjunction with A lot of the other types of packages and the nose tackles they already have, guys with great gains there. And people talk about 2 Vita Veas, and I don't think that's quite the case because Vita Vea is very athletic and offers a lot. And I think Watson at the moment, his biggest thing going for him is how big he is. Now, he's very athletic, but very raw football player, trades wise. So he would need to lose like 80 pounds. Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. And he ran like a 5'9", I think, like 450 pounds, which is quite very unbelievable. Very athletic. Needs to very raw and developmental. And again, this is even after he would need to lose like 50 to 80 pounds to get close.
Someone in the chat says he lost 30 pounds. Great. He's 434 pounds.
Yeah,
he still needs to lose at least 60 to 60 pounds more.
And that's at least, and it would be helpful to lose more. But that didn't happen for some reason at Florida. That never happened. And he was doing drills. He was in the weight room. He was playing football.
Eating. So I mean, he said I've got an addiction to food. So maybe we get him a hypnotist. One of my buddies actually got hypnotized, and he's shredded. Like he's like, I used to eat a whole box of Twinkies or Ho-Hos, and not just 1 or 2, a whole box in a setting. And he showed me pictures, and I'm like, oh my God, dude. You went and saw a hypnotist, and now he's like this 6'3" shredded jack dude. I'm like, how much did it cost?
Maybe that's the path.
Hey, maybe he's gonna take some of that advice, but just don't go the Ozempic route because then you're gonna get too small.
That might be a little tough.
Your face starts to get long.
Yeah. So that I would be pretty surprised. But for right now, go Gators. It's a lot of fun. So we'll see.
You got a Gator on the team.
Absolutely.
Outside of Trask.
Outside of Kyle Trask, yeah. So big moves.
I gotta say real quick, I love Jason Light. I think he's so awesome. And what's so cool about whenever he's like doing an interview or something, he matches the energy. So he's on McAfee. He literally says, I don't know what the question was that prompted a response, but he goes, we take the assholes and douchebags off. It's like Jason Light. He's like, I'm on McAfee. We're good to go.
Yeah, like, there you go.
Wow.
Just some markers. I think he's going on Pat McAfee. Is that
he's on there now. I mean, he'll be on there. He'll be on there in 30 minutes after we're done.
Yeah,
and he's doing Rich Eisen today as well. So he's gone a bit of a media tour today.
Yep. So if you guys don't have time to tune into that live, I'm sure we'll be covering it over at BucsGameday.com. We'll have tons of content continuously going out, especially now that Jason's going to be releasing a lot more information about how things kind of unfolded in the draft. The next steps moving forward. So with that being said, guys, I want to thank you, JC, for hopping on here, taking some time out of your day. River, you as well, as always, joining me. Thank you for all 100 and something of you, probably more, that have joined us throughout the show. Those of you who are over on YouTube that got your comments in, your questions in as well, we really appreciate that. Again, if you guys are watching on X or Facebook, head over to our YouTube. Just type in BucsGameday in that search bar. Click subscribe. You'll be notified whenever we go live as well. Click that like button if you like what we're talking about. It's also how you get your questions and comments up here during the live shows. With that being said, guys, awesome draft. Jason Light doing a tremendous job once again. And we're looking forward to the season, man. We've got OTAs, rookie minicamp, training camp, all coming up here in a very short amount of time, especially I think mid-May is when things are going to start picking up. So thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, Friday.
Friday. Rookie minicamp's next Friday.
Even sooner than I initially thought. So it's coming up quick, guys. We're going to have tons of information going out on BucsGameday.com. Don't forget to head over there. Thank you for tuning in, and fire the cannons.